morning. I won't take up much of your time. My name is Dr. Laura Solorio, resident of Salinas for 30 years. And thank you so much. It was quite an education seeing the resolution this morning regarding our Japanese American community. And I visited Manzanar several times in my life, and it's a state park, and it's unbelievable that people were put there in the cold and the heat. But if you get a chance to go, it's amazing. So today, I'm here to recommend to you, as you discuss the appeal, which I know is occurring over time, to Judge Will's decision on Measure Z. We'd like to present you with 1,500 signatures of concerned citizens who ask you to join the appeal at the appellate court level. The hard copy of signatures were obtained at the Women's March at CSUMB. We spoke to many voters, some who were particularly from King City, who said, well, I really can't sign a petition, but I really do support your effort. Just a note, my neighbor in Hollister, who I haven't seen in years, came out to see me as I went to my parents' house and said, please keep up the fight. And so people are aware of what's going on in Monterey County. We applaud your resolution of supporting the ban on offshore drilling, but as the EPA is dismantled and our president is a climate change denier, it is even more important to protect our water. The oil industry, hospitality, and growers asked you to give up on Measure Z, which was passed by over 56% of the voters in Monterey County. What about the workers in hospitality industry and in the fields? Many of who support Measure Z deserve equal representation, but do not have the financial background to carry a lot of clout. So thank you for your time, and I turn into you 1,500 signatures of citizens who ask you to continue the appeal process. Thank you so much.
Yes, good morning again. I'm in the middle of reading a book that kind of helped me think about the place we're in. It's a book called Lost Connections, Uncovering the Real Causes of Depression and the Unexpected Solutions. And I would submit that our country is in depression, whereas Gil Scott-Heron put it, winter in America. And so a lot of the speakers before who talked about the internment of the Japanese, evoke the kinds of attacks that are going on in terms of Latin American immigrants, Mexico and Central America, the attack on Haitians, the attack on people from the Middle East in our country, Muslim Americans. Basically a divorce of we the people into a separated kind of a view, an insular kind of view that makes for victimization. And I think that kind of depressed America is part and parcel of what we see in terms of the attack on the environment as well. Essentially, it's almost saying we don't have to think about a future, and that's kind of the essence of depression, is not believing that you have to plan or think about a future. But the people of Monterey County actually did something almost unprecedented in a major oil-producing county. They said, no, we are going to think and consider about our future. And they voted against tremendous odds, 18-1 financial advantage, passing the initiative with 56% of the vote. One judge has made a decision that Monterey County has no authority, that it's preempted by state and federal law. And all we are asking from folks is to realize that this is eventually going to end up in the California Supreme Court. And are you going to be part of defending what the people have stood up to say that they do believe in a future? And are you going to stand up and defend the right of your county to make decisions about how land is used? Or are you just simply going to say somebody more powerful than me has the right to make these decisions?
Thank you. I want to, first of all, thank the board for doing such a wonderful history lesson. I think I gathered a lot from that, lessons of history, and also the importance of correcting injustices for our democracy. I think it really strengthens and heals our democracy. So thank you, Chair Goliath, for helping to make that possible. So today, the reason I'm speaking is also to urge the board to consider appealing the judge's decision on Measure Z. And I consider it, Measure Z, to be an environmental justice issue. As you have I applaud your decision to support the resolution to prevent offshore drilling. And I want to point out that, this has been a long fight since the 1980s. Folks in the Monterey Bay region have worked hard to protect the coastal areas from offshore drilling. But the reason this is an environmental issue is because there's been very little effort until Measure Z came along to protect the inland residents in the Salinas Valley from the risk of oil operations. Since the 1940s, the Monterey County has given blanket permits to allow unlimited drilling. There's no CEQA review of these blanket permits, and that's been very troubling. So Measure Z came about because residents felt it was time to do something about that. And I just want to point out that, courts can make mistakes. In fact, you saw earlier today an evidence of that. In 1944, there was a case, Korematsu versus United States. You might have heard of it, where the Supreme Court, all the courts, including the National Supreme Court, upheld the internment of the Japanese Americans. And today we view this decision by the courts as a miscarriage of justice. I think in 20 years, I think our children and our grandchildren will look back on decisions like the recent decision on Measure Z as legally flawed. And I urge the board to stand on the right side of history and to help appeal the decision of the Superior Court. Thank you so much.